Welcome to the first ever episode of Total Speculation. From that one NFL show on YouTube, I'm that one NFL guy. With me is my bud, Knipe. That's right, one word, our very own McLovin, no spaces. And yeah, Knipe, buddy, your 49ers have made it yet again to the Super Bowl to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. Why don't you just go ahead and tell us how you're feeling? We're what is this? Thursday, so we're 3 days out from the Super Bowl. Just let me know how you're feeling, man, because as a Jaguars fan, I have no idea what that feels like. So just go ahead and let me know how you feel.
All right, so welcome everybody. First episode of that one NFL show. Glad to be with everyone. But as far as how I'm feeling, man, I'm nervous as shit because it is the Super Bowl, and every game in the playoffs is nerve-wracking as all hell. I mean, the way that we've won this playoff season, though, has made me so happy with my team and my coach and just my players and everybody. So I have way more confidence than I did when we went with Jimmy G and we faced the Kansas City Chiefs before in 2020. But I'm still nervous because, dude, when you talk about facing, this is the same thing as facing Tom Brady, in my opinion. Like, you cannot be comfortable when you have a guy who's that dominant on the other side of the field. It's nerve-wracking. I wish he was on my team, just like everyone else, every other 31 other NFL teams do. You know what I mean? So it's you can never count on Patrick Mahomes, and I'm nervous, but I'm also more confident than I was in 2020. Like in 2020, I would have given us a 10% chance to win. And this year, I mean, I'm about as 50-50 as you can be, which is kind of what the line says too. So, man, let's see if Purdy can pull off a miracle. Just need one more game, man, one more game, and we'll see if it happens.
All right, well, I'm going to have to stop you right there because, as you know, this is an NFL offseason show. So we will get to the Super Bowl, but we can't put that at the top of our priority list for this show because, we had to kick off the very first episode right before the dead zone in the NFL when nothing's going on and nobody's sure what's going to happen next because we'll be waiting for that free agency period to start. But that's okay because that'll give us time to speculate here. So we got to start it off, obviously, with this being an off-season show. We got to talk about the NFL coaching hires, all right? So we're just going to pull up a list here of the coaching changes that have happened so far, which is all of the roles are pretty much filled other than a couple of coordinator positions. But I'm just going to go down the list here, and we're just going to talk about each hire, mostly the head coaches, but we'll touch on a couple of key coordinators and whatnot. But we got to start in Atlanta, where Raheem Morris ended up getting the head coaching gig. This is his second go-round as a head coach. Obviously, the first time with the Bucs years ago. Give me your thoughts on Raheem Morris? What do you think about this coaching hire here?
I mean, so I like when teams will hire a coach that kind of addresses what their weak points were. And so I guess I didn't fully agree with this one because he's more of a defensive-minded coach. And I'm not a huge fan of, to me, that offense needs some love. You know what I mean? If that offense had the right hands on it, that offense would be disgusting. And all they need to do is find themselves even a decent veteran quarterback or to trade it. Like they might trade up in this draft. But I don't know. I'm not in love with the hire. I personally would have, to me, Jim Harbaugh was the best candidate for them. Just like I thought he was. I thought if I was the Bears GM, that's who I would have gone for as well. But I don't know. I thought their defense was good enough. And I don't know. It's just not something I would have done. I would definitely gone a different route. Maybe not trying to go the defensive side. I would have gone with, if I would have done everything to get Bobby Slowick if I was them or Jim Harbaugh. So I'm not a big fan of it.
Yeah, I kind of felt like they just didn't want to make any major moves, really. I felt like Raheem Morris was more of a safe pick. And it's nothing against Raheem Morris, but I agree with you. Their defense was on point last year. That definitely was not the issue. More than anything, the issue was the play calling. And beyond that, the quarterback position. But I will give them credit. Zach Robinson is a guy that is pretty well respected around the league, quarterback coach for the Rams he took with him. So we'll see what happens, but obviously Bill Belichick, this was the only place that Bill Belichick interviewed at. And the reports are basically that Bill Belichick, they didn't go with Bill Belichick because people in the front office didn't want Bill Belichick because Bill Belichick was going to take control of the whole organization and shake everything up. And there were people that were going to lose their jobs. So And Atlanta is a very like homegrown operation. It's treated as a family. So they're saying the owner there, Arthur Blank, just didn't like the idea of firing a bunch of people, and it does kind of feel that way. But we'll see how it works out. I mean, Raheem Morris is definitely worthy. The only thing is about this year is it's tough because there was a lot of good candidates, which we'll get to some snubs a little bit later. But I mean, when you got Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel out there, it's kind of hard for me to like your pick. And I'm with you here as far as the offense was what needed correcting, which is mostly the quarterback, but also they needed a lot of changes with the play calling because Arthur Smith was kind of screwing them over there. But let's also touch on Carolina with Dave Canales from the Bucks. Offensive mind, obviously with Baker Mayfield having kind of a comeback year a little bit. Obviously, there's a lot around him with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and even Rachaad White was pretty good this year. But Dave Canales, interesting story about him. He actually has a book. Him and his wife wrote a book about getting over their infidelity issues or his infidelity issues, and had an addiction to pornography and binge drinking. So good for him getting his life back on track. I will say, I think it was a smart move on his part to keep the DC over there, who also got a lot of head coaching interviews. Avaro. I don't want to mispronounce his first name. I think it's Ajaro, but I don't want to mispronounce it. But he was obviously a great candidate. Did a good job in a tough situation over there in Carolina with that defense. But I think overall, I think the hire was okay. I think it's tough with Carolina, man, because I don't know who's going to want that job with their owner. He's just a crazy son of a bitch, firing people left and right, not really letting people do their jobs. I mean, there have been reports that he stepped in and that the coaching staff wanted CJ Stroud, and that he basically stomped his foot and said, we're getting Bryce Young. So when you got a guy like that heading your organization, it's kind of tough to make that job appealing. So, yeah, I don't really know what to think. Honestly, you know what I thought would have been a better fit here? I actually thought Pete Carroll made the most sense to me in Carolina because if I'm Tepper, man, I just want to like get this place to like be loved. And like Pete Carroll is a culture builder. Like, sure, you're not going to win a Super Bowl while Pete Carroll's there, but is that really even the goal right now for you guys to win a Super Bowl? Like, you just want to get this whole organization back on track. So what are your thoughts on Dave Canales?
Yeah, so I agree with you completely, at least what you said about Pete Carroll. Like, to me, I would have hired a actual culture changer. I wouldn't have cared about the win-loss record, because Pete would have got at least in the mindset of the entire organization in the proper spot. And he still wants to coach. So, I mean, I feel like if you would have said, hey, Pete, you'll have the keys here, and I'll back off a little bit from what I've been doing in the past, because if you want to grow, you got to at least be able to adapt and overcome some things. And it doesn't seem like Tepper really wants to, because that's what this hire says to me. Like, I like the idea that they got the offensive guy, because obviously they have that young quarterback who needs help. He needs a little bit of love. But at the end of the day, Canales, you really think that guy's going to be like, I don't look at him and think, okay, this is a guy who's going to come in and get the boys riled up and get them ready to go win football games. He looks like just an every other day coach to just, I feel like his speeches will be lame. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like there's any rah-rah in him. And I don't feel like there's going to be camaraderie because of Canales. So I agree with you, man. I think Pete should have been the hire. I mean, I don't like I'm not a big fan of the hire. And didn't they give Canales like a 7 or like just stupidly long deal, like a 6-year or 7-year deal?
I'm not sure on that, but you might be right with the 6 year. I mean, when you're firing people 1 year after hiring them, that kind of stuff is going to happen. People are going to be like, hey, we want a little more job security than you're giving out here. You just fire somebody in the first year, literally not even 16 games after hiring them.
Yeah, I don't know. That whole organization is a dumpster fire because of Tepper, and I don't feel like this did anything to change it. I feel like they're still going to just continue the status quo of, if Canales, unless you really turn around Bryce Young, Canales, like your job is going to be on I guarantee you we're going to be talking about a new coach within 2 years of the Carolina Panthers, and they're just going to eat the rest of whatever that deal was, or avoid it, or whatever the heck they're going to do with his contract. But and yeah, I feel like you need a veteran in the locker room right now, and I mean a veteran as far as a coach, and I think Pete Carroll would have been the best choice possible for them to change the way that they go about business there.
Yeah, so I did confirm it was a 6-year contract, which probably, like I said, probably is because Tepper's firing so many people. You got to get that security on that money, man.
Yeah.
But I will say, like fresh coaches too, like these new, like Canales. Obviously, this is like the first we're really hearing of him after being an offensive coordinator with the Bucks. Because this is his first year as offensive coordinator. Before him was Byron Leftwich. But with those kind of guys, what I was surprised to learn after looking at it, and the thing is, they don't have to report the money on coaches' contracts. Sometimes it comes out. It normally comes out later, but like I can't even see how much he got paid yet. But when I looked at a list of like how much coaches do make, they make a lot less than I thought they would make, especially first year coaches. You obviously have like the Jim Harbaughs. You got 5 years, 80 million because he's had such a strong track record of success. But when you're a first up and comer coming from being an offensive coordinator, like his contract probably is like 3.5 million a year.
I thought
type of level.
Harbaugh get 8-year, 120 million.
No, that was it was he had like a 10-year, 125 million from Michigan was the offer, but with the Chargers is 5-year, 80 mil. Which we'll go ahead and actually jump over to the Chargers. Why not? They're such a fun team to talk about. Jim Harbaugh, the Chargers land basically the shining star of coaching free agency, the guy everybody wants to talk to. He's been a hot name the past couple of years. He finally won the national championship with Michigan, so it's kind of perfect timing for Jim. You know, the what they love to say, the Harbaughs, who's got it better than us? Nobody. It's pretty goddamn true, okay? When you really look at it, Jim and John Harbaugh basically run their own coaching factory. Look at the way these guys swing coaches back and forth. Look at Greg Roman was with Jim Harbaugh, okay, with this for the San Francisco 49ers years. Obviously, the fallout between him and Baalke in San Francisco Harbaugh ends up leaving there, being San Francisco. Greg Roman moves over from San Francisco to Baltimore with his brother John for many years. He develops Lamar Jackson. The offense kind of outgrows Greg Roman. They let him go. And guess where Greg Roman ends up right back with? Jim freaking Harbaugh. And you can look at many examples of this. The head coach, Mike McDonald in Seattle, okay? He was the defensive coordinator for John Harbaugh with the Baltimore Ravens. You know where he was before that? The Michigan Wolverines defensive coordinator for Jim Harbaugh. These guys literally just send people back and forth, back and forth. Jim Harbaugh takes Jesse Mittner with him for his defensive coordinator role. So I'm telling you, these guys have a factory of coaches. It's nuts. And guess where Jim Harbaugh gets his do what?
I said they go out to dinner a lot.
Dude, it's crazy. Like it's smart. It's freaking smart, man. Jim Harbaugh, guess where he gets his GM from? Baltimore. They literally just send people back and forth to each other. It's freaking crazy. The way that they have that inside game is just nuts. And I respect the hell out of it. Now, I will say with the Chargers, I really don't feel like Greg Roman is the right guy for OC here. I think Greg Roman's a better fit for somebody like Justin Fields. I actually felt like when I was watching Chicago pick their offensive coordinator position, I felt like if they picked Greg Roman, they were definitely going to go and stick with Justin Fields, but ends up with the Chargers. I'm not really sure how I feel about that, but I do feel like it doesn't really matter because Jim Harbaugh is going to have it under control. The amount of star power that they have over there at the Chargers, I just respect the hell out of it. I think that they're going to be playoff contenders from day one. Super Bowl contenders, really.
Yeah, I mean, the AFC is loaded, man. I don't know about Super Bowl contenders, but they should be playoff bound. And man, Jim should have them ready to not be a first round exit. Shout out Mike McCarthy. Yeah, I mean, I think it was a great hire. Like you said, he was the most coveted offseason coach, and which is kind of weird because you have Bill Belichick out there. I get it because it's most organizations are looking at it like, okay, we need someone to attach to our quarterback who the quarterback likes and who can develop a quarterback, because that's obviously the most important position in the NFL. And when you have Justin Herbert, I mean, I know he gets a lot of adjectives get thrown at Justin Herbert, whether they're deserved or not. He is a top tier quarterback in the league. No matter what you want to think, his play is up there with the best of them. And he just has not, like, Brandon Staley was a joke, man. He is one of those guys. He's like, reminds me of a Dan Quinn. Even though Dan Quinn got a job, you're better as a coordinator. You know what I mean? You're not a head coach type of dude, and that's fine. That's okay. You're still going to make buttloads of money as a DC, and just know your role.
I got to stop you right there because I'm going to be honest with you. After what I saw with the Chargers, I literally would not even hire Staley as a DC because listen, Staley was a DC for 1 year with the Rams, and to me it felt like one of those hires where it was like, hey, this guy knows Sean McVay. We should hire him. He's young, but like. And that 1 year with the Rams, yeah, they had a good year defensively. He had a ton of stars. You look at what he did. You look at what he did with the Chargers on defense. You're supposed to be a defensive guy. Your defense was awful. The defense was the reason you were losing all the time. The defense was the reason that the Jaguars freaking knocked you. I mean, offense too, because they didn't score any points really. But the defense was the reason the Jaguars were able to come back on you the year before on that playoff game, and it just felt like you never recovered from that. So, honestly, Staley to me is a guy like, I'd be done with this dude, honestly. Maybe you could be like an assistant coach or something, but I mean, I'm sorry. He embarrassed himself to the point where I feel like he's not even deserving of a coordinator position.
Yeah, I'm just if I'm a Chargers fan, I'm curious though, like you said about with Greg Roman in the offense, like because Justin Herbert can run, you know what I mean? Like it's not like he's not a run first at all type of guy, but he can use his legs. So I wonder. I mean, we all know that Kaepernick, how he was used with Greg Roman. Then he had Lamar Jackson after that. So, I mean, I wonder how much Herbert is going to run near the goal line now and how much, RPOs they're going to do down there because, that's a staple of Greg Roman's offense. So it'd be very interesting to see, what kind of floor and ceiling Justin has this year. But my only concern for him is, man, the Chargers just get bit by that injury bug on offense way too much, man. It's kind of brutal. And hopefully that, most of our guys can stay healthy this year. I know Keenan Allen's getting up there in age, even though he just had an awesome season. But if they want, dude, like you better do something quick with Keenan Allen, man, because he ain't gonna last that much longer.
Yeah, and Mike Williams also on the other hand, Mike Williams when he plays, he's good. Yeah. But getting him to play sometimes is tough because it gets hurt and it might not be his fault, man. I mean, he's had some season enders, so obviously that's out of your control. But like at some point, you're just not durable, and we'll see what happens this year. But yeah, to your point. Justin Herbert does have decent legs, but obviously they're not going to be able to run it like that with him. There are reports that they want to get a big name running back, which is, I'm going to be honest with you, this is the only tough thing about the Chargers job. Look at where their cap space is, negative $44 million. They have been buying today with tomorrow's money for a minute now. And you look at now Tom Telesco, he got fired from here. The one signing, I'll be like, that was awful. J.C. Jackson. We don't really know if it was him or if it was Staley that really wanted him. I would argue Staley was probably pounding the floor for him because he's a defensive guy. So I would imagine he's the one making the decisions on the defensive free agents you bring in. But other than that, I mean, most of the signings and stuff have worked out for them, I feel like. But with that cap number, obviously, it's going to be tough. You're going to have to restructure a lot of people and put that money in the future. And on top of that, hopefully they might have to end up making a tough cut or something of that nature. I'm never really sure because you never know. These guys nowadays, they're just going so all in.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, I've looked at the Chargers backfield and just the way the draft is going to go, they can get Blake Corum. And that's who I think that's their Michigan boy. You know what I mean? Like, why would
that does make sense. I
think it even looks like they can get him potentially in the third round. I mean, maybe. But I mean, worst case scenario, if you want him that bad, just take him in the second round. You can secure your guy and you're familiar with him. He's good. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, if you really, because I mean, Eckler's not going to be there. He's not.
He's definitely gone. And I'm pretty sure his contracts run out. I can double check that, but I'm pretty sure.
No, he's done. He's a free agent. But I mean, we all know their backups are trash. And yeah, I think Blake Corum just makes all the sense in the world. You just won a championship with the kid, and JJ McCarthy definitely was not the reason for it. So I mean, I would take Corum in the second round if I was in.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, you never know with the way the combine goes. I mean, if he has a really great combine, he might bust to like late first rounder, but it's a little early for the draft. We never really know. You got to get through free agency to see what everybody's really going to be about for draft time. Yeah. But let's stick in the division here and switch over to the Las Vegas Raiders. They end up keeping Antonio Pierce as their head coach, which honestly, in my opinion, it felt like they had to do that because you think about the last time they were in this position and they had Rich Bisaccia. They had just made the playoffs after they had to fire John Gruden for all the crazy shit that came out from the league office. And they ended up going with obviously Josh McDaniels, and that went terrible. Okay. So based off of that, I feel like, and the way that they played was very similar, had that second half surge where the team's really fighting for their head coach. They're playing with a rookie quarterback, Aiden O'Connell. It's really just a tough situation altogether. Antonio Pierce obviously had a lot of success for the situation that he was in. So they kind of had to keep him on top of that. Max Crosby was saying, hey, listen, y'all go hire somebody else again. I'm done. You trade me. So when your best player is doing that, you kind of don't have a choice. I will say with Antonio Pierce, he's very young. Okay. He hasn't really coached that long, hasn't even been a coordinator. But sometimes I feel like the best experience he has is he was a captain in the National Football League for, I believe he had like a 10-year career with the Giants, won a Super Bowl with them, played under Tom Coughlin. Tom Coughlin's actually has been advising him all offseason, helping him get the hires, helping him bring in like people like Tom Telesco, which I think was a good hire for GM because he has the experience. And I don't feel like he did a terrible job as the Chargers GM. I mean, you look at the roster, they have a lot of talent there.
Yeah,
drafted guys
they
like
were stacked.
James, exactly. Drafted Justin Herbert, drafted Joey Bosa, and Joey Bosa, he picked him over Jalen Ramsey. So I mean, you got to give him credit because he put together a good, solid foundation of players. Mm-hmm. So I think that was, excuse me, I think that was a good hire for GM. Now, the coordinator position, they keep Patrick Graham, makes sense. Patrick Graham, well-respected defensive coordinator. He's already been there for 2 years. And honestly, the biggest issues have been the offense. But he goes out and gets Luke Getsy, okay, after everything that happened with the Bears. Honestly, I think that was the wrong hire. They actually fumbled the ball because they really wanted I'm blanking on his name.
Kingsbury.
Yes, thank you. Kingsbury, who ended up going to Washington. But the story is basically that they wanted to give him a 2-year deal instead of a 3-year deal, and the Commanders were willing to give him a 3-year deal. The interesting thing is Kingsbury already still getting paid off of his head coaching contract. So the first 2 years were going to be offset by the pay he was getting as the Cardinals head coach anyways. I don't really understand why you wouldn't just give him the 3rd year, but I do feel like that was a mistake. Getsy, I don't think that's going to really be that great because look at what happened with Chicago. I'm sorry. I feel like that offense should have played better. I feel like Justin Fields should have been a better quarterback than you were able to get out of him because I still believe in Justin Fields' talent, but we'll get to that later. But anyways, that's going to be the coaching staff for them. Look, it's going to be a tough situation for this Raiders team. I mean, you're going to be in a division with Justin Herbert, Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers. And then you also got the team that's in the Super Bowl right now, the Chiefs, who just fucking basically AFC championship lock every freaking year, okay, since Patrick Mahomes has been in the league. So it's a tough situation over there on the Raiders and Antonio Pierce. But we'll see what happens with them. I mean, honestly, it doesn't really matter who you hire as head coach. That's going to be a tough situation. They don't have a quarterback right now. Do I think Aiden O'Connell is the quarterback of the future? Absolutely not. Jimmy G is not the quarterback of the future. They're going to have to figure that out, and they just need a lot over there. They need a lot with the Raiders, with the Las Vegas Raiders. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and jump over to New England, who basically just interviewed nobody. They had a contingency plan with Bill Belichick leaving, which was Gerard Mayo, and they just let that shit go. Look, I don't know what to think of this. I think that the New England Patriots needed a lot of shaking up because I think it's weird that you get rid of Bill Belichick in the first place. Okay, I definitely would have gave him more time. But if you're going to get rid of Bill Belichick and then just hire his understudy, I just feel like that's just a weird situation in general.
What can we all just not why not Vrabel? There's the connection there. He has.
Yeah, didn't even get an interview. Nobody got an interview. It was just Gerard Mayo from the start.
Yeah, man. It was like they already knew it. I feel like they talked about this mid-season. It was so quick. You know what I mean? Like there was no time in between. Like Bill's gone, it's Gerard. Like holy crap, dude! You don't even want to entertain Vrabel? Like Vrabel's a good coach, dude. What the hell is going on right now? Like you're just so confident that Gerard is your leader, is your guy, that you didn't even want to interview Vrabel. Like that just to me, as an owner, that makes zero sense. And it makes me just feel that there's so much misplaced confidence. You know what I mean? Like to get, you want to tell me you want to get get rid of the best coach of all time, because you can debate what you want, but I mean, like, the most accolades, whatever the hell you want to say. We all know who Bill Belichick is. Like, dude, if you win me that many freaking Super Bowl rings, you have the keys until you're dead. I don't care. Like, if Kyle wins me freaking 7 rings, dude, you can do whatever you want for however long you want, and he can do it honestly even right now. But I mean, dude, that was mind blowing to me that they didn't entertain Vrabel, or anybody else for that matter. You know, I mean, not just Vrabel, but like anybody else. And it was just so clear cut to them that it was Gerard Mayo. Yeah, it was very confusing. I mean, hey, I'm not going to wish bad upon a guy that I haven't seen do his job yet, so I hope he does a great job. But I mean, I doubt it. I feel like it was so convinced because they know they're fucked, and they want that coach to be a basically holdover, kind of how Lovie Smith was in Texas. And they want a guy they can fire easily without too much, drawback. And so whenever things go wrong, because they expect things to go wrong for the next 2 or 3 years, they can fire a guy at will. You know what I mean? So whatever.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough situation. You have Mac Jones and Bailey Zapke. Those are your top quarterbacks, okay? The defense always been on point, though, so I'm not saying, like, Gerard Mayo's a bad coach or anything. I just feel like if you're going from Bill Belichick, first of all, if I'm gonna move on from Bill Belichick and go Gerard Mayo, like, at that point, why don't I just keep Bill Belichick and make Bill Belichick get a GM? Because when you really think about it, that's more of the issue, is that he hasn't had a quarterback. And this is the first year that they're actually in position to get a quarterback in the draft that they could actually develop and actually has more talent, because I'm sorry, Mac Jones was a very mid quarterback prospect. Like, he just was, man. Like, he's just not exciting. He's just bland. And it's like, you're going to need to be scheming it up. Like, could Mac Jones have worked out as a San Francisco 49er? Probably, because he can mid it up. And if you got a good scheme, maybe if you got a great scheme, like Josh McDaniels was able to get the best out of him as a coordinator, obviously. But it just was something to me that was never going to work long term with Mac Jones. And now you're kind of starting from zero, from scratch when it comes to your offense. They've made so many bad signings and draft picks on offense, dude. You think about people like the tight ends they got, Jonnu Smith. I will say Hunter Henry's been okay, but they paid him top tight end money, and he's just been okay. And they go out and they get like Juju Smith-Schuster or buddy from San Francisco. I'm forgetting his name, but just people that end up being like very mid, and they just don't get splash signings. They don't get the right people. If you get a GM in there, I feel like Bill actually can manage a team and win games. People, this idea that it was all Brady, to me, is just horseshit. Like, dude, Brady doesn't happen without Belichick. If Brady went to a different team, we might have never heard of who Tom Brady was. Bill Belichick developed him in a way that I feel like would not have happened with most other coaches. Are there a few guys? Absolutely. There's a few guys that could have done it. But Bill is definitely one of few. I mean, he's the greatest NFL head coach of all time. So if you're just counting out the possibility that he could have turned this around with a good GM, I just feel like, in my opinion, that's nuts. Now, I will say with Gerard Mayo, I did like the offensive coordinator that they got, Alex Van Pelt. This list is actually incorrect in a couple of spots, I think. Specifically, if you look over here at Cleveland, it has Alex Van Pelt listed as the offensive coordinator. He was actually fired. But you look at what Cleveland did on offense last year. I mean, Deshaun Watson, already a tough situation because they shouldn't have given him that money. He's been underperforming the contract, but he goes out. Joe Flacco plays better than him. The offense looks better with Joe Flacco. So I didn't really understand why he got fired, but I will say Kevin Stefanski's offensive mind, he calls the plays, but I still like the hire. It's a guy that's obviously experienced at the position. And if you can get him some talent, maybe he can do something. But the Patriots offense is just a long way from it. You look from people like Strange, that tackle that they drafted. Now I think he's playing guard for him. He was supposed to be like a 3rd-round pick. Bill Belichick picks him in like the 1st round. Like, those kind of moves just have not worked out for Bill the last few years, where it used to work out for him in the past. And partly, interesting enough, part of that I feel like is because Caserio left and he went to the Texans, and now look what the Texans are doing. It's very upsetting as a Jaguars fan, but Caserio, I think that was a huge loss for him. And ever since then, it seems like the Patriots just haven't been able to bounce back from that. But if Bill ends up getting in a situation with a good GM, I think he could definitely work out.
So I mean, we have total speculation, right? You know what I think is going to happen? So I mean, obviously he ain't getting hired this year, but he's going to want to coach again. And I think homie in Philadelphia is going to get fired after this year when they become because I bet you anything they are. I guarantee the Eagles this next year, 1st-round exit in the playoffs because of the culture. And Bill Belichick is going to come in there to basically a fully loaded team and Eagles are going to start competing with us. You know what I mean? Again, like at least year after year, it'll be like Philadelphia's, versus the Eagle or versus the Niners for a little while.
Okay, all right. Total speculation over there. I actually have some thoughts on that, but we're going to get to the Eagles in a minute. I really want to touch on all the head coaches before I jump over to the coordinators. There's a couple coordinator spots we're going to talk about. Let's go ahead and we'll slide over to Seattle. Why not? We'll talk about the guy, Mike Macdonald, okay? Coming straight from the Harbaugh tree. Mina Kimes has been stomping her foot for this guy in Seattle, and it's very interesting to me because everybody thought this is Dan Quinn's spot. This is Dan Quinn's job to lose. But you know what? Here comes a young, stropping lad, 36 years old, the new youngest head coach in the league. And everybody's kind of trying to find this new Sean McVay. I'm pretty sure that actually there have been people that have said Mike McDaniel is the defensive Sean McVay. So we'll see there. Obviously, Baltimore Ravens had a great defense, but this is what I will say. Look, Baltimore Ravens had a lot of good defensive players, okay? That is not a team that you're taking over and you're just making good. Like, nah, they got Marlon Humphreys. They got freaking Clowney, who had a great year. They go sign Kyle Van Noy, has a great year off the couch. Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, freaking Kyle Hamilton killed it this year. So that was a team, obviously, it was greatly run on as management-wise, but they had a lot of talent there. And Seattle's got some good playmakers, but the corners, really good playmakers with Witherspoon had a great rookie year. And then I'm blanking on the fifth rounder that they had last year. Tariq Woolen, he got benched at one point this year, but he's a really good player, and we'll see what he's able to do. They do got some baggage, I feel like, with Jamal Adams on the secondary. Didn't play very much this year, coming off of like 2 injuries in a row. They signed him. They traded so much for it to get him. Just hasn't really worked out. We'll see what happens with him. But what are your thoughts on Mike Macdonald here in Seattle?
Fuck the Seahawks.
Are you nervous? 2 Sean McVays in the same division?
I don't give a crap about anything Seahawks. They're going to suck. They got Geno Smith. Geno don't scare me for shit. I don't care. All
right, man. We'll see. We will see there. But that's really all I'm going to touch on. I feel like Mike Macdonald's one of those guys that's just like, we'll see. Like, there's a lot of hype to him, but we're not really going to know until we see what happens. And a lot of it's going to be on the offensive coordinator, who I believe they actually have hired an offensive coordinator. I opened up this one because I know that the job's still open, actually. They still have open job for offensive coordinator. So we'll see who they end up hiring there. Probably be some recycled guy.
Probably some bozo.
Probably. Let's excuse me. I got a little bit of a cough here today. Let's jump over to let's jump over to my division, the Tennessee Titans. Brian Callahan gets hired, was offensive coordinator for the Bengals. First-time head coach. He didn't call plays as offensive coordinator, but obviously, I feel like they did a good job with the backup situation on Browning playing a lot of the year with Burrow being out. I don't hate the hire, but it's another one of those, like, we'll just kind of see what happens. Like, I don't really know, but I hope not. I don't think that the Tennessee job is the best situation. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I believe in Will Levis, because I definitely do not. I think that the Titans are the fourth in this division as far as talent goes. And I don't with the Texans, the Jags, and the Colts, I honestly don't even think that the Titans have a chance. So I think it's going to be a tough situation for Callahan. But what are your thoughts on Callahan?
Man, I didn't know how to feel when that happened, because I was like, is this a lateral move? Does it actually improve your team? Because, I mean,
when you fire Mike Vrabel, it's kind of just like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, dude, I feel like everyone thought that, and I feel the same way. I don't like to usually go with the crowd, but I mean, like, that one just didn't make sense to me. It's like, they better hope it works out. Again, so they just got a new GM. They got a new GM this previous year. It was Rand Carthon.
Who, by the way, I'm blanking on whoever their new GM is, but Mike Vrabel actually did not want him. There was a different GM that he wanted hired, and the owner ended up going with that GM. So I think that's where the tension started to build, kind of thing.
That wouldn't surprise me. So it was Rand Carthon. He was in my organization.
Thank you.
And he's a great dude. But he's an alpha type of dude, and so is Vrabel. But that's probably where the head started, because it's hard to have 2 alphas in the same room. You know what I mean? And speaking of that, what about all them reports about Vrabel freaking being too large for jobs? Apparently, like this.
Yeah, we'll get to the snubs in a little bit. Let's kind of stay with the hires, but yeah, that is a ridiculous freaking report. But we'll touch on that after we touch on all of these guys.
Yeah. So as far as the actual head coach goes, I mean, again, like he's kind of more unknown, especially to like the average fan. So I mean, I'm just gonna say good luck to him. I hope it works out. But like, dude, you're losing Derrick Henry almost guaranteed. I mean, there's been speculation that he could come back, but I don't see that happening. And yeah, I mean, you got a lot to overcome in order to make this a winning football team in a division that's on the come up. So, man, good luck. I just think, like you said, they're going to be bottom dwellers in that division for the next 5 to 6 years, almost no matter what. Unless they like there's no way Will Levis is going to start playing better than Lawrence and Stroud. No chance. And yeah, I see them as bottom dwellers now, especially. I mean, like he could just be a bridge coach, man. He could just be someone they want because they know they're going to suck, so they want someone easy to fire, and then they'll get the actual guy in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I agree. I think we'll be talking about the Titans being bottom feeders for quite a while, especially after that stupid Vrabel move. Let's touch upon, lastly, Dan Quinn getting the Washington Commanders job. Funny enough, I'm not sure if you heard on McAfee, but Tony Pollard had no idea this even happened. This is obviously it was hired like a week ago. Tony Pollard didn't even freaking know. Tony Pollard was like, oh, he did. But so obviously he didn't give him a congratulations text, but Dan Quinn, second-time head coach, obviously made it to the Super Bowl with the Falcons with Kyle Shanahan as the offensive coordinator. The famous 28-3 return. The Patriots just kill the Atlanta Falcons. Dan Quinn really never recovers from that until he becomes coordinator for the Cowboys, and they killed it there. But Dan Quinn getting his second opportunity, hires Cliff Kingsbury, who's also getting his second stint in the NFL, now as an offensive coordinator instead of a head coach. Give me your thoughts first on Dan Quinn, and then obviously Cliff Kingsbury being the right-hand man who's going to run the offense.
Yeah, so Dan Quinn has always impressed me as a coordinator because he was the guy in Seattle when they were the toughest. When they had Legion of Boom, he was the dude driving that basically all of that. And so I know how awesome he is as a DC. I don't agree with him being a good head coach. I don't know. I don't know what it is about certain guys. I just don't feel like they're actual leaders. Like, when you look at a guy like Mike Tomlin, you think, okay, that's a leader right there. I don't look at Dan Quinn that way. I look at him as a good compliment. Like, he's a great dude, but I don't see him being a leader in the locker room. So I'm going to say I disagree with the hire. I would much rather have gone with a younger guy. Again, I was a big fan of Bobby Slowick and Jim Harbaugh. Those were my two favorite, but I don't know. Like, I would have tried to throw the bag at Bobby Slowick, as opposed, especially because he was already on your staff, part of that tree that everyone knows. And yeah, I would have just been like, hey, come back home, baby, and let me get you some a quarterback real quick with the second pick, and we'll get to work. But man, I think Dan Quinn's going to ruin whatever quarterback, more than likely Drake May. I think he's going to ruin him. So
come on.
What?
I mean, he's not even going to do anything with him. If anybody ruins him, it's going to be Cliff. Because Dan ain't going to do shit with the offense. Dan's just going to hope Cliff works out.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, you always blame the head coach at the end of the day because you just like with anything else, it's the lead. You're going to be a representation of your leadership, and your top leader is your head coach. I mean, you can say GM or owner, but that's not true. Everyone knows it's the head coach. So I mean, I'm going to blame Dan Quinn at the end of the day. And I think he's going to ruin a quarterback, but we'll see. Hopefully he doesn't, because I want to see guys be good and be successful. But I mean, that's how I see it happening.
Listen, I'm going to strongly disagree with you. I don't think Dan Quinn is the worst hire ever. I will say I think they really wanted Ben Johnson because that was who it was going to be between was Ben Johnson and Dan Quinn. Yeah. But Ben Johnson obviously ditches them, which we'll get into in just a second. But as far as Dan Quinn, he's had up and down as far as success goes. I think with him, it's really going to depend on Cliff Kingsbury because I look at this job and I actually think it's a decent job to take with the Commanders. You look at their cap space situation; they got a ton. Okay, they have the number 2 overall pick. All right, so that's either where they're going to say, and we'll get into what we think they should do. But they got a lot of options there. They could try to trade up to 1 and go get Caleb Williams and tie him with Cliff Kingsbury because obviously they were together at USC the year prior. And then another thing they could do, take Drake May. There's some Jaden Daniels. I'm really not sure who's going to end up being the 2 between those guys because Jaden Daniels coming off of a great year with LSU. I really think he could jump Drake May. We'll see with that. Or there's even a third option, which is, hey, what if the number – because they're saying the jump – to pick number 2 to pick number 1, like the amount of draft capital that it'll cost, it does sound pretty insane. They're saying like 3 first-round picks, like basically your whole draft for like the next 3 years. And that is a lot, especially when you got this cap space. And by the way, if the Bears want to take Caleb Williams, they're going to be looking to trade Justin Fields, which all reports say that it'll cost probably a second-round pick. So if you think about it, Commanders might even be able to get him for like a third and something else because their third-round pick is going to be the back of the second round. Okay, but either way, they could trade for Justin Fields. They could take Marvin Harrison Jr. at 2. And I mean, that's going to set you up pretty good. Justin Fields, Marvin Harrison already going to have the connection playing together. That's been a popular thing to do is pair a guy with their college number 1 receiver. So they got a lot of options over there. I think that this is one of the better jobs that he could have taken. I think Dan Quinn's in a better situation than you're giving him credit for personally. But we'll see. You never know with these coaches. But let's talk about –
Hold on. You said all that. That was based on getting Caleb Williams, though. So that's I feel like if he gets Caleb Williams,
I gave you a couple options. Caleb Williams. You could do Justin Fields and pair him with Marvin Harrison Jr.
I'm saying if the draft just went normal, if there was no trades, if anything, you know what I mean? Like no trades.
That's not how it's going to go down. It's never like that.
I'm just saying if that happened, because you don't know if Justin Fields goes there or not. Like he would have to still get traded there. So I'm saying if everything stood pat right now and like the top players went like how they're supposed to kind of, and Caleb went 1 and Drake went 2, like that's when I feel like the implosion will happen. Like it'll be different for sure if depending on who they get during the draft, which is gonna be super fun to talk about. I mean, we can dive deeper in a few minutes, but like I just wanted to, because you're making it seem like it was so like obviously all that's gonna happen, like he's gonna look great, and like I don't know,
I'm just saying he's got options. You look at like when I'm just comparing this job versus other jobs. Like Tennessee is in a shit situation. Yeah. They're not going to get a top quarterback. They don't have a quarterback. The offense looks like shit. The defense is very okay, just okay. Like there's a lot of worse situations you could have picked. I'm just saying like he didn't get stuck with one of these shit jobs like the Raiders or the Panthers. Or even the Falcons, I'll say they're like kind of mid-tier job because they do have a good defense. But like, I mean, as far as the options that were open, I think Washington is a better situation than some people will give it credit for.
Yeah, but see, I think it's just weird because it's just a weird dynamic because you know that Dan Quinn was not remote. I don't think he was even like he might not have even been the second choice, dude. Like because there's basically everyone was already hired by the time they got their hire off. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't know. I mean, I think Dan Quinn could work out. I think he's a fine leader. I just think things didn't work out in Atlanta. Just because honestly, things haven't worked out in Atlanta since he left either. So it's not like he was like the one issue. Like there was plenty of issues over there. I think I'm just saying it's possible. I think he has a path to success, and I think there's some guys that got hired this cycle that do not.
That's fair. Yeah, I agree. There's some just bait coaches out there, I guess if you want to call them that. Just like the guys who I just think are going to get fired basically after 1 year. You know what I mean? Like they're going to let them get that 1 year, let it go to shit, and then hire who they really want. But yeah, situation wise, I agree with you. It's definitely 100% not the worst. But I just look at him as like I think I see like a 20% chance of success, and I think you see more of like a 60 to 70% chance of success, which that's where we disagree. But I
put more of a 50-60. Okay. But yeah. I mean, I agree. But let's talk about Ben Johnson in this job for a second, okay? Because obviously that was kind of like just so random. Like the Commanders were literally waiting on this man because they could have already hired Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn was just chilling out there, but they were waiting on this man and the Detroit Lions to be done. And they went to fly in for that second interview, and they get a notification on their phone. Hey, Ben Johnson doesn't want to talk to us anymore. They're literally on their way. And granted, they were going to talk to Aaron Glenn too, but is Ben Johnson wrong for ditching them mid-flight? Because listen, he could have at least just took the 2-hour meeting, talked to them for a little bit, said, hey, you got a great thing going on over here and love you guys, but I'm going to stay in Detroit. And then it wouldn't have been as big of a deal. But instead, we're talking about it because Ben Johnson mid-flight decided to tell his buddy, hey, go ahead and just call them and just let them know I'm sticking around. So what are your thoughts tonight?
Yeah, dude. As soon because I'm sorry, but if I'm gonna put myself in Ben Johnson's shoes. And I mean, if I have that gut feeling, or like I talk to my family or I talk to my mentor, whoever the heck it is, whenever he decided in that moment, I don't want to do this job. I want to stay here. I want to prove I want to come back and do this again. I would have said something immediately. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a fuck about what you're doing. Like, I don't, if you're not sitting right in front of me right now, whatever, dude. Like, I mean, it wasn't like they were at the front door of his house and he was just like, oh, you're not coming in here, bud. Like it wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? Okay, a business guy had an extra little half of a flight. I can really give a fuck about what some rich guys are doing mid-flight. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm going to tell you, I don't want to work. I'm going to say, I don't want to work. I'm going to text them and be like, I don't want to work for this organization. Let them know I'm not going to take any, like, it's not even worth meeting because I'm going to say no to everything.
But you couldn't have decided before we got on the fucking plane? Before we're an hour in on this flight?
Oh, man. Oh, you had to sit on a flight. Oh, man.
Listen, I think it's a valid complaint, okay? If you did this to my team, I would be annoyed, okay? That's all I'm saying.
Dude, if there's plenty of worse things in the world than sitting on a flight and being like, you know what they probably thought? They probably thought like, well, let's go, like, let's just go have some fun in that city, I guess, for a day, and then we'll just fuck off back home.
All right, well, whatever. You know what? I think the easiest way for me to compare it is just being like, this is like a lower level Josh McDaniel situation where you just dish us. And beyond that, Ben Johnson always being like, I want 15 mil a year. Like, man, you ain't done shit, bro. You ain't done shit. Okay, sit down. All right, we'll see what happens because it's going to be tougher next year. Dan Campbell already said it himself. It's going to be tougher because they know you're coming. But let's touch on just a couple of offensive coordinator positions. Well, really coordinator positions around the league, but just a couple that I want to touch on. Okay.
All right, I'm going to use the restroom. I'll be right back.
Okay, so I'm just going to keep going. Shane Waldron in Chicago. All right, I find this really interesting with the quarterback situation. We don't know number one pick wise if they're going to go with Justin Fields or Caleb Williams, but this just adds to the mystery with me. Most people think they're going to go with Caleb Williams, but listen, when they interviewed Greg Roman, I thought if Greg Roman gets this job, this is Justin Fields' spot. There's no way they're moving off of him because Greg Roman has that history with Justin Fields. And then they end up not doing that. Okay. Then they interview Cliff Kingsbury. I think Cliff Kingsbury gets this job. They're definitely going with Caleb Williams. And then they end up hiring Shane Waldron. And I will say this about Shane Waldron. He did a good job with Geno Smith, man. I mean, that's a tough situation with a guy rebounding. And that was just a good overall job there. So I think that was a strong hire. I think that Chicago should have started over and got rid of Matt Eberflus. But whatever. They're rolling with him. So we'll see what happens. Ryan Poles obviously running the show over there. We'll see what happens with that draft pick. Another position I want to touch on is Ryan Nielsen hire in Jacksonville. Listen, as a Jaguars fan, this is exciting, okay? He did a good job with the Falcons, improved the Falcons in basically every single category once he became the coordinator there for the 1 year before Arthur Smith got fired. I think this is a good hire for the Jaguars, okay? I will say he likes his plays. He calls them man plays, but we'll see if he can adjust to that because the Jaguars really have zone corners, and we're going to need to run zone. But 3-4 defense, I think, is a good fit. I will say I think Mike Caldwell was a bit of a scapegoat here because honestly, the offense was more disappointing than the defense. But I don't know. We'll see what happens there. I'm just saying I respect the hire. I think it was a good guy to bring in. Now, two last spots I want to talk about, a coordinator spot. Pittsburgh taking Arthur Smith. I find this extremely questionable, okay? The biggest issues with Arthur Smith was the fact that he did not know how to run an offense because they got good, talented players over there in Atlanta. They brought in Kyle Pitts, okay? They brought in Drake London, all right? They brought in Bijan Robinson, which you already know, man. I mean, it was pretty much football malpractice the way that they were running that backfield over there. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. I don't know what else you can say about it. I don't know. To me, Arthur Smith is Brandon Staley level. Like, I can't give you an offensive coordinator position. After what I saw in Atlanta, no, I can't do it. Why don't you go ahead and give me your thoughts on Arthur Smith?
Well, you know why they can do it, man, is because Matt Canada was their previous guy.
But that's my point. That was the biggest issue. And you're going to go get a guy like Arthur Smith?
I know. But I guess maybe they've talked themselves into like, maybe it's still an improvement. I don't know. Like, that's the only thing I can really come to fruition on is like, what was the final thought process there before they said, yeah, let's hire that guy? Because I agree with you, dude. Like, I don't get it. Like, how did you put that product out there with that talent? And I can sympathize with the quarterback a little bit, but also there was also plenty of teams this year that didn't have their starting quarterback for most, if not all of the year, and did just as well, if not way freaking better, and they would have done better in your situation. So I have no sympathy for Arthur Smith. You don't deserve a job in the NFL, period. I wish you would go back to FedEx or whatever the fuck company you work for. Because I had Bijan in fantasy, you piece of shit. But yeah, criminal usage of most of the players. I mean, 2 players in particular, London and Bijan. But yeah, I don't agree with it. I think Tomlin is going to regret that very quickly because he's going to see that that this guy is going to. He's just not going to bring success to your offense, dude. Like, I don't see the Pittsburgh offense going from holy crap, they can't really score touchdowns with Kenny Pickett to holy crap, they can't really score touchdowns, with Kenny Pickett this year also. Like, it's going to happen again. Like, they're not going to score a bunch of touchdowns. And I feel like their only chance to score touchdowns is their running backs, and their offensive line isn't good enough to make that happen. So, I mean, whatever, dude. Good luck, I guess. I don't really, it doesn't affect me a whole lot at the end of the day because obviously a Niners fan, but like, if I was a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers, dude, I would be livid. I would be like, what are we doing? Why are we going backwards, man? Like, why are we not trying to at least? I'd rather try someone off the damn street almost than to hire a guy that I just saw fuck up royally in front of everybody in the whole world. Like, nah, dude, I'm good. Let me just get a rando who's young, or he doesn't have to be young. He could have been old. I don't give a shit. But like, just someone who's unknown and like has a chance to have a ceiling. You know what the ceiling is of this other guy. So I mean, whatever. Fuck him.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this has 9-8, 8-9 written all over it year after year for Tomlin. All right, let's slide over to the Eagles. This is the last team I'm going to talk about with the coordinator switches. A lot of them I don't really care about, but this one I just find very interesting because, listen, I always think it's funny when you have a head coach that ends up firing both coordinators, because at that point I'm just like, okay, so this factory just isn't working, apparently. But listen, me and you together, you and I, have watched this Eagles team. We watched it this year, and it was noticeable drop-off in that play calling, especially on offense. I mean, the shit they would call would be so stupid and just dumb half the time. But I'm going to be honest with you. I love both of these coordinator hires. Okay, Kellen Moore is going to get that offense clicking. They're going to score points. All right, they're going to be a pass-heavy offense, and I think that they're definitely going to hit home runs as far as the play calling goes and as far as the execution goes. And then Vic Fangio on the other side, motherfucker basically was just like, I don't want to be in Miami, and they just let him leave. I don't understand how that happens, but whatever. Vic Fangio is somebody that's been very valued as a defensive mind. He's been a head coach a couple of times in this league. Hasn't worked out as head coach, but always is top-tier defense. And honestly, Fangio, I'm pretty sure, came in the Super Bowl and like helped them with like a 2-week assignment and like helping them study up for the game. So there was already a relationship there. Made a lot of sense. I think he wanted to be closer to his family, and there was a report come out that said something like he couldn't basically couldn't relate to these defensive players in Miami because they wanted to live the Miami life. I don't know how true that is, but whatever the case is, he ends up in Philly. I think it's a great situation for him. You got any thoughts on these coordinators?
No, not a whole lot, to be honest.
All right. Well, you brought up the Bill Belichick thing in Philly, and honestly, I thought about Bill Belichick as a landing spot for Philly once they basically had that collapse happen and everybody thought Sirianni might lose his job. Mm-hmm. But then I read something, and so, I mean, maybe it could happen because I think that as far as the team goes, Bill Belichick makes a ton of sense. Like the way that he wants to play football makes sense with Jalen Hurts. The way that he plays defense, he has a freaking star load of star names on that Eagles defense. Now, they are getting a little old. I will say that, but they have some young bucks as well. And I just think that there's a lot of talent over there. It would have made sense with Bill Belichick, but apparently the owner and Bill Belichick like hate each other. So that's the only flaw with that happening. But listen, we spent a lot of time talking on these coaches. I had my screen shared, so I really couldn't even like notice the time. I got to pay attention to that for next time so we can kind of speed that up. We got just a few more topics here before we hit the end of this episode, and we'll hit that NFL dead zone where we can really just take some home run shots because we're not going to know who's going to be a free agent yet, and there's going to be a lot of wait and see. But one thing that we know is going to be a topic of discussion all off season is what should the Bears do with the number 1 pick? And what should the Commanders do with the number 2 pick? And listen, I don't want to get too into draft talk because a lot of times you got to see what happens in free agency. But to me, the Bears were already going to know what they're doing with the 1 pick because I think, look, they're either sticking with Justin Fields or they're trading Justin Fields and taking Caleb Williams. And if they trade that number, and if they do stick with Justin Fields, they're trading that number 1 overall pick, and they are going to get so much for it. And they're not going to go that far. Like if I'm the Bears, dude, I'm trading to 2, 3 at the furthest because I am getting Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
If I'm not getting a quarterback, like that's just what it is. Doesn't matter. But now there's a lot of reports saying basically the Bears are getting Caleb Williams at number 1. But let me just ask you, Kanai, if you're the Bears, what are you doing?
Dude, if I'm the Bears GM, first of all, I'm waking up every morning fucking just rock hard. I am so happy to be that GM because like the possibilities are endless right now. And I feel like if done correctly, I think a playoff berth is almost guaranteed next year. And then I think a deep postseason run can happen in 2 years. But if they do it right. So if I'm the GM, like you asked me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just what you said. I'm going to trade the Patriots because I know the Commanders are going to take a quarterback. They're not going to just stick it out with one of those 2 guys. They're not going to go with Brissett and they're not going to Howell. They're not going to go with Sam Howell. So I mean, they're going to take Drake May at 2 if the Patriots take Caleb Williams 1. And you can ask that much. You can ask for 3 firsts and something to get the Patriots to bite on that, and they would because Caleb Williams this is like trading Trevor Lawrence. Like you would have wanted a minimum of 3 firsts and something else to get rid of Trevor Lawrence off of your radar. You know what I mean? So they're going to ask for the same type of thing. That's exactly what I would do. So that way you have awesome picks for the future. And then, like you said, you don't leave that draft. You don't trade down far enough to lose Marvin Harrison Jr. He is the prospect you have in this draft. I don't care what anyone wants to say about Caleb Williams. Yeah, a once in a lifetime, blah, 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 whatever. QB is the hardest fucking position to play in the NFL. So nothing is guaranteed. And this guy kind of has bust written all over him, in my opinion, because he's getting compared to Mahomes already. That needs to stop. You get Marvin Harrison Jr. because you know he's going to be awesome. You know it. Like there's few guarantees in drafts. He is a guarantee. You want him at pick number 3. You let the Patriots get Caleb Williams and have fun over there. I keep Justin Fields because he has talent. He does have talent. He can be a winning quarterback in this league if he's used correctly. You got it, and if he's coached properly. You know, I feel like he just hasn't had good offensive coaches, and I feel like he is one or two pieces away from bringing, you know what I mean? Like if you bring in Marvin Harrison, you have DJ Moore, you got Cole Kmet, and then they could potentially land Brock Bowers with their 9 pick, dude. Oh, buddy, man, that offense is going to be disgusting. Like if Fields doesn't succeed then, okay, cool. Then you know you can bring in a veteran, you know what I mean? Whoever's at that point in their contract, or they're like, maybe they bring in Kirk Cousins for a year or 2, you know what I mean? Something like that. But then, you know, and then if you put Kirk Cousins in Chicago, that you know it's going to be successful. So I think you give this year to Fields, let him do it one more time because he's had kind of shit to work with. Give him everything he needs, and then if he fails, cool. You know you can go get your bridge quarterback in like Kirk Cousins, and then draft one later with your draft capital that you have from trading that pick and keeping Fields. And then best case scenario is it works out, which it should, and you go to the playoffs, and then you start making some postseason runs with some experience.
Yeah, I love that plan. You already know that was exactly what I would have done because I also do believe Justin Fields can work out, and especially if you look at Justin Fields' stats to DJ Moore, like bro, I mean it's on point. Like when it comes to like DJ Moore, him and DJ Moore, they connect really good. So then you put Martin Harrison on the other side, Darnell Mooney becomes your slot guy. I mean that looks pretty good. Plus you got still $50 million in cap space. Go get yourself an offensive line. Mm-hmm. You can add Brock Bowers, or you can add an edge rusher in the draft, offensive tackle, whatever you need to make it work. I think the Bears are in a good place regardless because, I don't know, we'll see what happens with Caleb Williams, man. I mean, I think they end up taking Caleb Williams. If they do, I think that this exact plan can happen for the Commanders. There's already been a report that says if they can't get that number 1 pick because they have Cliff, that they're going to go ahead and trade for Justin Fields and take Marvin Harrison at 2. So we'll see. That's all I'm going to say about the Commanders is I think that's the obvious move if they do end up taking Caleb Williams. So you're even the Commanders are kind of in a good position because listen, if you take Marvin Harrison Jr., then sure, whatever. I mean, I guess if the Patriots jump them And yeah, even if the Patriots jump them, I mean, I still probably take Marvin Harrison Jr. Obviously, the Bears aren't going to trade you. The Bears aren't going to trade you Justin Fields because they're going to try to prevent that from happening. If they take the 3 spot, just like you said. But I don't know if I was the Commanders, I'd still take Marvin Harrison there.
Yeah,
but
I would.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I kind of want to wait to speculate because we'll see what happens with these free agency who actually hits. But just one last thing before we get to the Super Bowl. The Hall of Fame class of 24 is getting announced tonight. So let's go ahead and pull up this list here. And this is a tough thing, all right? I give the Hall of Fame a lot of shit because like things like T.O. not being a first ballot Hall of Fame are just ridiculous. And then to me, listen, people are going to fight me on it. I don't think Calvin Johnson should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's just my opinion. I just don't think he should have. He didn't play long enough. They hurt Tony Baselli because he wasn't playing long enough. So in my opinion, I don't understand how you make Calvin Johnson a first ballot Hall of Famer when he doesn't, plays the same exact amount of time and he just basically doesn't want to play for the Lions. And that's why he ends up retiring. But regardless, here's the list. Out of this list, 5 of them are going to get picked. Can I go ahead and give me your 5?
All right. So I'm going to get the homer pick out of the way and I don't care what y'all think. Patrick Willis, Hall of Famer. Because he's a Hall of Famer in my heart, man. I love that dude, man. He was so special to watch. Him and Navarro Bowman, and then we've just had awesome luck with, research, whatever you want to call it. Just drafting linebackers. Like now we have Greenlaw and Warner, and it's just been so awesome to watch both of those tandems do their thing. And Patrick Willis was such a big part of the start of my fandom of the Niners. And he's a dog, man. He's just fun to watch on the field. I know he didn't play for as long as Gizzy would have liked. But either way, Patrick Willis, in my opinion, he was such a good talent that, he could definitely earn the honors. And then next I went, Antonio Gates. And I almost feel like out of that list, like Gates almost stands out the most to me, just as when I think about Hall of Fame, I know stats, speak volumes, whatever that tells, part of the story though, is just like, dude, he was so clutch when the Chargers needed him to be clutch. You know what I mean? And he was so dependable when they needed him to be dependable. And the value he brought to that organization was so high. And I love the player so much. And to be a tight end for as long as he was, he played an absurd amount of seasons. But yeah, I like that guy, and I think he deserves Hall of Fame in the first ballot. Devin Hester had next. And this one I will allude to stats because I mean most returns of all time. That's pretty amazing because it was always special to watch. And he's kind of a reason that you would tune in to watch. Like none of us really care to watch punts. You cared to watch punts and kick returns when it was Devin Hester returning the ball because it was a lot of fun to watch. And then my 2, I guess my most serious of the bunch that I think are going to get in tonight is Reggie Wayne and Fred Taylor. And those 2 guys, I really don't have to say too much about them. I mean, their resumes speak for themselves. They're both just all pro guys, and just elite at their job. And in my opinion, there's to me, if I'm picking 2 players out of this list who I like the most, hands down period, without being a homer about it, Reggie Wayne and Fred Taylor are my top 2. And I don't know who I would even put first, but yeah, those 2 guys definitely deserve to be in the Hall of Fame tonight.
Well, thank you. Us in Jacksonville strongly agree with you. We've been agreeing with you for years now. Listen, I think Patrick Willis, great player. And I think that he should be in the Hall of Fame. But dude was all pro basically every year he played. But he only played 8 years. And listen, because of what happened to Tony Baselli, when it's a situation like that, I'm always going to be like, I think you need to wait. And I think this is his, let me see here. This is his, so this is his 3rd year as a finalist, 5th year of eligibility. You know what, man? I'm actually going to change my answer on the spot. I think he's waited long enough. I'm going to put him in. Originally, I wasn't going to put him in, but when I looked at those all pros, man, that is a lot, dude. That is a lot. And he has waited. Okay, so it's not like he's first ballot. So I'm going to go ahead and agree with you because of the consistency of it. I'll go ahead and I'll add him. And there's somebody. Now I'm not even going to mention that I'm taking out. But listen, the guy that I have the same as you, also Fred Taylor and Devin Hester. Fred Taylor is a guy that's been deserving of a long time.
Yeah.
The thing that hurts Fred a lot is that He only had one Pro Bowl, no All Pros. But the thing is, like, if you look at it, first of all, there was many years where he should have been a Pro Bowler that he wasn't. But with the All Pro and everything, there was always, like, every year there was a guy that was like just killing it. Like, but if you looked at the overall, the 10 years, so like 10, 12 years he played, like, he was better than a lot of those guys that were All Pros. Guys that had like a few good years, like Sean Alexander. Sean Alexander had a few good years, but then he fell off really hard. Fred Taylor was consistent. Fred Taylor was doing it every single year. So for me, and you look at it, there's like 12 guys above him on the rushing list when he retired. All of those guys are in the Hall of Fame. Fred Taylor's the only one that's not. So
I sympathize with that because I compare his dependability to Frank Gore, man. And then Frank Gore, you know what I mean? Like, I would have, like, you tell me you're a GM and you're not going to fucking be chomping at the bits for a guy like Fred Taylor on your team.
Absolutely.
Like, dude, come on.
Absolutely. And then another guy I got the same as you is Devin Hester. Devin Hester, I actually would have made a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, when you look at, and I know it's special teams, but dude, the guy was electric, man. Like, he has records that I believe will never be broken. Like, I do not think that we are going to find another returner as good as Devin Hester ever. So that's why I would have made him a first ballot. But obviously, I think this is his third year. To me, he definitely deserves it just off of the special teams. Now, Julius Peppers, that's a guy I'm putting in as a first-year Hall of Famer. And look, he's got a lot of sack numbers. There are some guys that have more sack numbers. The thing that I look at the most is that, dude, he has so many forced fumbles, and he did it at a high level for so long. Guy played like 15 years, man, and he was at the top of his game from the beginning of the career to his end of his career. So even with somebody like Dwight Freeney, who is also very deserving of the Hall of Fame, I'm sliding Julius Peppers in first ballot. And the funny thing is, I didn't think I was. I looked at him being a first ballot, and I was like, let me just take a look at it. And going into it, I didn't think I would want to pick him, but I got to pick him there. And I think that was all five, wasn't it? Oh, no. And then also Torrey Holt. That's another guy that I just feel like you look at the yards, you look at the touchdowns, you look at the amount of games he played. I mean, it was incredibly impressive, and I just think he's due for it. Reggie Wayne's another guy. Like Reggie Wayne and Andre Johnson, also both great candidates, but I'm going to go with Torrey Holt above them. And I think a lot of people are going to think we're crazy for picking Devin Hester over those guys. But I'm sorry, like the special teams, the way that he did it, man, nobody. The closest was Prime. And Prime did not do it the way that Hester did it. I know that was his bread and butter was just special teams, and he was kind of like just okay as a receiver. But I'm sorry, I can't leave him out.
You know what I love about Devin Hester is like name me other returners on football teams. Go ahead, I'll wait. I don't even barely know who returns for my own damn team. You know what I mean? Like nobody really thinks about who returns for their team because nobody cares about it. No one's watching. That's when you're taking your beer break and you're taking a piss and whatever the heck. You know what I mean? Like this guy.
There's a couple guys, Duvernay, Agnew. There's a couple guys, but yeah, nobody like Devin Hester level where it was like, dude. Devin Hester's returning this. Let me sit my ass down and wait.
Yeah, dude.
Because there's a good chance. There's a really good chance.
Yeah. Like he made it so worth watching a special teams play. Like no, I can't think of another player who made special teams more enjoyable to watch. Like, and that's what this is about. Like this is about like the talent and the skill you brought to he changed the game. Like if you could, dude, if you told a coach that you could draft a DevinEster in the first round, gonna be a basically useless wide receiver, but he's gonna be the best returner.
Not useless. I said 1,000 yards, and he was okay. He was a startable receiver. He was a startable receiver,
like a number 3 guy at best. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with that,
dude. You know what I mean? Like he's the third guy. But I mean, you would draft that guy in the first round without even questioning, anything really. If you got told that he was going to be the best special teamer basically ever. And
you know what's funny about the receiver thing? Like when I watched Devin Hester, obviously he started as a corner in the league, just never played corner. Basically, it was just a special teamer. But I thought it was interesting they put him at wide receiver because I actually felt like when it's a guy like that, like returning balls like that, I'm like, why don't you just put him at running back, bro? Like all you do is just hand him the ball and he's explosive. Like, yeah, I don't know. You never know.
I think you're right. I think because look what happened to Cordero, dude. I think that's Cordero was proof that could work out. You know what I mean? Like he just needs to give him one lane, dude. That he's busting that thing.
Yeah, exactly. Even Agnew, man, we've given him a few touches. Sometimes he busts. Now Agnew fumbles. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's because he's little. Devin Hester wasn't little.
Yeah, no, completely agree. But all right, let's go ahead and get to the thing I know you want to talk about. Look, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I am not excited for this year's Super Bowl. Okay, we've already seen this before. I am so tired of Patrick Mahomes already. Like, dude, like I mean, I was tired of Brady by the end, but listen, it took a while for Brady to start hitting that consistency where it was like year in, year out. Like he had that 3 out of 4, and then there was like kind of a lull, and then it started picking up again. And with Patrick Mahomes, it's just like, dude, just immediately out of the gate, freaking his 6 straight AFC Championship games, and like what this is Super Bowl number 4 that he's playing in. Like, come on, bro. Do we really want another one of these? Knive, obviously you're excited because it's your Niners. I'm going to be honest, I'm not really excited to watch you guys either, okay? Because you guys are another team. Maybe you don't make it to the Super Bowl all the time, but you've been in the NFC Championship like so many times out of these last few years. And
4 out of the last 5, yeah.
I'm just fed up with it, man. I really wanted the Lions, really wanted the Ravens. They couldn't do it. They couldn't hang. Go ahead. Give me your Super Bowl picks. Obviously, you're taking San Francisco. Give me your reasons why.
Yeah. Well, hey, maybe I'll pick Kansas City. No, I'm just kidding. You know what it is, bro. You know what it is, bro. Super excited, man. Yeah, I'm picking my Niners, and it's because we have a complete football team. Like, let's not forget that Kansas City. I mean, I know that they're clutch. And I know that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league right now. I'm not ignorant to that fact. But my team is complete, and we can even improve on defense now. Without even improvement, I think we have the edge on KC for the simple fact of, I mean, we were playing better football throughout the entire year. Like everyone was talking this year, like KC doesn't look right at any given week. They've only looked right the last 2 weeks, and even
hey, they getting hot here now at the end.
Okay, well, I'm saying like looked like KC. You know what I mean? Like felt like KC and looked like KC. Like a lot of the year, they did not look and feel like Patrick Mahomes' Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm not going to sit here and overhype the AFC game. Like, dude, Patrick Mahomes only put up 17 points. Like, whoop-de-frickin' do, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's not like
but that defense has been balling all year.
I understand that, but that's not like, holy crap, this guy like is unbeatable. It's just his defense stepped the hell up, and Lamar Jackson, I guess, is not a clutch kind of guy, I guess. But yeah, I'm going to take my Niners, and I think it's because we just have a complete football team. And I think CMC is going to go ham. I think Purdy's going to make the throws that he needs to make. Now, do I think, Purdy's going to go out there and win the MVP? No, I think CMC will win the MVP. But, I think that if we play our brand of football, we can walk away with a nail-biter 3-point win. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a fun game, man. I mean, at least you can say, I know the general public isn't, thrilled about it because it's like it's a Yankees versus the Dodgers type of deal. Like, everyone, expects them to win. And then when they do, it's kind of annoying because it's like, I'm sick of seeing these guys. I understand that's how America feels about our teams. But at least it's 2 very good football teams, so it should still be fun to watch. And it's not like, there's just like a given, going on there. It's a very toss-up game. Like, I feel like people are lining up to vote for KC, but man, go ahead and put all your money there. I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes. Go ahead and
I think the reason people pick KC is because they're just so scared to pick. Like it's like every time you count them out, like they fuck you. Like every single time, because I thought this year, like, no way. There's no way. I mean, the way they've been struggling on offense, the way that their receivers can't catch the ball, then Rice starts to kind of emerge. And they also obviously have Kelsey, who just carries them. Isaiah Pacheco can run the ball. But listen, this is where I think the Chiefs run into issues. One, the tackles aren't really that great. Juwan Taylor led the league in freaking holds. Donovan Smith on the other side, just okay. And then they obviously, Joe Thuney probably isn't going to play. So that's where I think that they're going to run into issues. For me, I think one of 2 things happens. Either it's a really close defensive game, and if that's the case, I kind of still lean San Francisco because I think that their defense is better than the Chiefs' defense. But the Chiefs' defense is good. So I think that there is a chance that this ends up being a low-scoring game. But if there is a team that scores a high-scoring game, like to me, it's either a low-scoring game and you guys win, or it's a blowout and you guys end up blowing them out because Patrick Mahomes ends up having to play hero ball. And when he has to play hero ball, then he ends up turning the ball over because your defense isn't going to let him just destroy him, especially after the NFC Championship performance. Obviously, there were some questions with effort, okay, specifically on Chase Young. I think that there's a 0% chance that happens because it's not going to happen 2 weeks in a row. That's the issue. It's not happening 2 weeks in a row. If it happened, it did happen last week. Maybe it could have happened this week. But because it happened the last time you guys played, no way it happens this play. On top of that, Kyle Shanahan, the fact that he's lost this many times makes me feel like he's in a position where Andy Reid was when he was with Philly. And Andy Reid had made it so many times to the AFC Championship game or the NFC Championship game, made it to the Super Bowl, just can't win it. I think that this is the time where he breaks through. He's comfortable. He has nothing to lose. We saw him lose in the press conferences this week. I'm not sure if you saw it, but there's one where they were asking a bunch of questions. They're asking him about the thing where he goes to Jed York. I'm not sure if you heard the story. And Jed York's asking about the quarterbacks, how they doing. He goes, hey, I don't want to lie to you. Purdy's the best one fucking out here, and we took him as fucking Mr. Irrelevant. And but he was real loosey goosey, and everybody's speculating that he's been drinking a little bit this week. And I think that that's going to actually give him the edge. I think the fact that he's going to be loose and not be panicked. I think that once you've been to the Super Bowl a few times, like we saw it with McVay, he says he overthought versus the Patriots, ends up being a low-scoring game. They end up losing. The next time they go to the Super Bowl, fucking takes advantage of that shit. I think that's what we're going to see here with Kyle Shanahan. But, yeah, probably – I mean, I don't know. It's either going to be a close defensive game to me or you guys are going to blow them out. So we'll see.
I hope so.
It'll be like – I don't want to say a blowout, but like when they played the Bucs level blowout where it's like towards the end of the game we know who's won.
Yeah. No, I don't think it'll be that situation. I mean, I hope, dude, that would be so sweet if we could just do that and just handle business. Man, I will be so freaking happy. I'll be screaming left and right. But, yeah, I don't foresee that just because, I mean, it's still a football team that's going to fight, and their defense is good enough to stop the bleeding, so to speak. But man, it depends on our play calling. I think if Kyle, works his magic, man, then you could be right. We could be looking at a big victory, but we'll see. I hope you're right.
All right. Well, that's all that I got for today. Obviously, episode running a little long at 1:15. Luckily, hey. Nobody's here. Nobody's watching today. So maybe somebody will watch next time. I don't know. We'll see. But till then, we're going to keep doing this weekly. We're headed right in to that NFL dead zone. So if you're like me and you just can't get enough of this shit, just join us, man. We're just going to make shit up as we go and just see what happens, okay? Good night. I hope you enjoyed the Super Bowl. And everybody, we're out of here. Peace.
Later.